Hello and welcome back to Concept First to Mastery. So in this particular section, we'll be looking at something very, very interesting. So as you can see, the screenshots I have here already, right? We'll be building this layout using grid layouts. And like the practice is, right, we'll first of all dive into the basics of grid so that you are not just building, right? You have that fundamental knowledge regarding what you are doing. So we are going to do that quickly. Then we are going to then practice what we have learned, right? On the basics. So this is the best way to learn, right? You learn the basics, then you apply it immediately. All right. Okay, we should get into that now. But before that, if you are just joining us, right? We've been having CSS series, so it will be good that you check the channel for the series so that you will not be lost. Then also we had a very interesting series. So we have a very important session also the last time out, right? On CSS Flexbox. So you might also want to check that out. I will leave the link in the description below. And you can also click on the card, right? That is just above you. Without wasting time, let's get into what we want to do. All right. So this is what we are going to be building, right? You can see that it's clean and I'm excited, right, to walk you through this. Not just this, right? Then we can also, there's another tab here, right? So you can see this. So all this you will use grid, right? Then at some point we'll use Flexbox. So it allows you to actually understand this thing and be able to use them like a professional, right? When you are working on project. This is how you learn, right? You can't learn how to build everything once. You will start taking these baby steps one after the other. And you are patient with yourself. By the time you go through all this, right, you will get it. And I can assure you, if you stick to my channel, right, eventually you will be able to do these things, right, without needing a personal instructor. If you are building along with me and you are following the explanations and all that, you'll be good to go and you'll be able to build personal projects, portfolio, and then be able to apply for jobs and you'll be able to start working. All right. So let's just get into the basics, right? If I click here, then it takes us back to this. Then let me also say that these images are just random images from the web, right? And these names are not by any means correct, right? They are just my own makings, right? So let's start with this introduction to CSS grid layout. So what is CSS Grid? It's actually a powerful two-dimensional layout system, right? It allows you to design web pages with rows and columns, right? So I didn't put too many words here because I just want to put out things that are important to the definition of grid, right? So it enables precise control over placement and alignment of elements. And that is the goal, whether you are using Flexbox, whether you are using Grid, right? The goal is that you want a container, right, that can control the placement and alignment of items inside it. That is the goal. So Flexbox does its own in one-dimensional way. And that means that you will need to specify the direction, right, of your Flexbox. But when it comes to Grid, right, automatically it's two-dimensional. You don't need to specify direction. So you are going along the column and along the rows at the same time. So if you don't understand what columns and rows are, don't worry. I will show you a diagram to actually buttress that. So again, capture that definition because it's very, very important. You should be able to separate why you should use grid, right, from when you should use Flexbox. Grid is a two-dimensional layout system. Two-dimensional in that it flows in both horizontal and vertical, rows and column, right, at the same time, thus allowing you to place and align elements, right? Flexbox is just one directional. So I think if that is what you can pick here, two-dimensional, right, aligning items around rows and column, then allow you to place and align elements. Those are the things you need for the definition. So it's also good that while I've shown you an example here, right, of how we use grid, it's also good that I show you practical application of grid in real world application, because usually these things makes it exciting, right? Programming is exciting. Look at what I have here. So you will notice this, right? This is a typical grid layout. You can see that this is an entire page. So you can use grid to lay out an entire page, right? And it makes your life easy when it comes to making your web page responsive, because grid actually tends towards responsive design, right? Even though we are not talking about responsive design now, but it's very, very important. So you can see here we have the header. The header section is taking the whole of this row, right? Then we have the sidebar. You can see where the sidebar is. You can see where the content one is, content two, content three, and the footer. So your content can now go into these different sections. This is what we call layout, right? We have how many sections here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This page is having 6 sections, right? And items and contents can now go in there, right? So this, you will not see these drawn for you on every website, but we are just, that's what we are diving into it, right? So if I move to another one, so you will see now that this is now where content has come in. That initial lines that I showed you, you won't see it again, right? So, but I can assure you that this is also using grid underneath. But when content comes in, you will not see. You can see that this whole place can be the entire section, right? Where we have this section, this header section can then be divided into two: the top nav and this other maybe leaderboard, right? Where you have library, and the other section, you just have some text about this page, right? Then you have this image gallery, right, with some descriptions on it. This can also be done with grid, and you can also do it with Flexbox, right? So here is another example of where you would use grid, right? All these buttons, right, can be layout with grid. The same thing here. So you can also see something like this if you are used to Netflix and other platforms, right, that display videos and all that, that allows to watch videos. So you see that they're also using grid, right? So you can see these cards and their description can be laid out with grid. Then here is another one, right? We have different, when it comes to laying out pages, right? Your understanding of grid and Flexbox is very, very important. So you can see this already. So for me now, I can see grid behind the scene because I understand grid. And that's why it becomes easier for you to interpret design once you see it. So see the same thing here. Grid can be used perfectly here to lay out these cards, right? So this is the template I used for what we are doing. So you can see that it's totally different. The design is different. The color is different. But this is the templates that I used, right? Then in combination with this one, in combination with this, right? That's why we have this. That's where this is coming from. All right, so let's get into this. I believe you are excited to build this. So that's that. So let's get into these definitions now. Defining grid containers and items, right? So when it comes to working with grid, you can't do away with those two things. There is the grid container, then we have the items that are inside that container. Just like when we did Flexbox, right? We had the Flexbox container, then we have the Flex items inside it. So because of some properties that are defined on the container can now control the children, right? So the definition is still the same, like the Flexbox. This must be a parent to direct child relationship, not grand, right? The child elements, right? The elements or the items must be direct children of that container for this to work, just like we have in Flexbox. So to use CSS Grid, you define a container as grid and the children as grid items. So this is just the CSS, and you know the way I do it, I'm going to show you what it looks like, right, before we practice on that project itself. All right, so let's just start. This is where I've been working CSS tutorial. Every project we've been doing has been coming here. So you can see some that we've done, right? Let's just create a folder that represents the current project that we'll be working on. And that's, let's just say CSS underscore grid, right? Again, if you check my GitHub, right, you'll be able to see the codes right there. Well, I won't advise you copy codes. Just try to type along, right? When you type, it strengthens your muscle memory, right? If you understand what I'm trying to say. CSS grid. Then what we are building is, let's just say uh, log, or let's just say color. CSS grid color, right? Then inside there is nothing, right? What I will just do is I will open that in my VS Code. So I'm bringing that into my terminal, right? If you have been following me, what I'm doing now should be clear to you, right? So I just open this directory, code dot, that's a shortcut for opening a, right, using VS Code. So that is opened, and you can see that there is nothing in here. It's just bare bone, right? So the first thing is you want to create the entry file. Just say index .html, right? And here I just want to generate a boilerplate quickly. So I'm using emit again. These are things we've done over and over in the previous sections. Just generate a quick document, right? Here I'm going to call this color 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 boots, right? The name is up to you. It has nothing to. It has no significance here. So what I also want to do is I want to create the CSS file. I'll just call it main.css, right? There'll be nothing there for now. So we can just, in order to connect this, right? Okay, to also confirm that it's connected, we can just select the body and just say, let's have background. Let's set the background color to this, so that if the document's body is having this background, we know that we are correctly connected. So let's connect the link. So style sheet is relationship. The link is /main.css. So that is connected now. So there is nothing here yet. So let me just put heading 1 here that says hello. All right. Then let's launch this. So if you are launching this, let me also okay. So if you are launching this, right, you can use live server. You must have installed live server. These are things I've done over and over. In the extension, you just search for live server, install it, and you'll be able to right click and open with live server. So it's going to actually open the site on a port. So you can see that now, 5,500. So the CSS is connected. That's why we have the body of this document having background of blue, right? So that's great. So these are things that you do, right? To ensure that because if you're a beginner, at times you would have applied CSS, you'll be wondering it's not working. It's because you never connected the external file, external CSS, right? So, but if you do this initially, it will prevent you from having that bug. All right. So I'm not going to set this to, I'm going to come back to that. So here we just want to have practice some of the things that I've been talking about, right? So let's just say grid container. Grid container, and here we'll just say we have a div that represents the grid container. And then we have grid items, which is also going to be divs inside, right? So let me just have 3 items now inside that div. 1, 2, 3. So here, of course, we'll give this a class name of, I'll just call this container. So that represents the grid container, right? Then here too, we have a class, and I will call these items. Let's just say grid, grid items. Now the name is up to you. So what I want to do here is this particular class should be general, right? So I want to apply to all the children items, so that when I have a style on this, it applies to all of them. That's why we use class names, right? So you won't see anything now. If I go to the page, you just see there is nothing. I've not even placed anything inside the content. So let's just say item 1, right? Item 2, and item 3. Make sure you practice along, right? Don't just watch me do it. These are the ways we master these things. It's going to stick more, and you're going to gain more understanding, right? So let's just try to work on what we are doing. So the aim here is to make this container a grid container. And how do we do that? I just need to copy this class name, right? Come in here and try to target that dot this dot because it's a class, right? If it were to be ID, to be hash. These are just CSS fundamentals that we've considered already. That's why I said if you are new, check my previous videos on CSS. So here we can just say display. Display is the property we are looking for. And this time around, we are going to set it to grid. So one thing you must understand is that just doing this will not do anything to the page, right? Okay, let's just say I've not applied it, right? Let's say I commented this out, because these are things that you should be, that's why I said you should practice it. These are things that you should not jump, right? Look at this now. Things are aligned, these items are aligned along the column, and that's because these are have this block display property by default, right? So they just take the full width, right? And they sit on each other. So, you know, in Flexbox, if you immediately you turn this on and you say display of flex, they will change position and change their default direction to row. But with grid, that will not happen. You will need to manually set the grid template column and the grid template row. You need to set the column and the row for it to work. So just doing this is one part of what we are doing, but it will not influence these items in any way, right? So just take note of that. Then usually you set a gap. So the grid gap just represents the space, right, that you want between the children items, grid gap. So if I want 20, I'll just put 20 pixels. So that means each item in the each child item in the container will be spaced around. We have a margin of 20 pixels around there. So that's one thing. Then the other part is dot grid dash items, right? So that's trying to target the children elements now, grid items. So here, so let's give this background color so that we can see what's going on. Background color of, I just said this, right? Then here, let's give height. Let's just give height of 100 pixel. So let me use text align to the center. I just want the text to be at the center. Let's give background. Okay, I don't want to give this background color like that. I want to give the individual items background color. So let's just see what we have currently. I think I've opened it already. So can you see what we have now? The text are now to the center, right? And each of them, okay, this is where, because visual representation of what we are doing is also very, very important. So here now, let me place another class on these guys, right? Let's say item 1, right? So that I can style them separately. Item 2. So here now, maybe the use of, what's it called, would have been, okay, item 3. The use of ID, right? So item 1, item 2, item 3. So here, let's say I'm saying item dots. Item 1 should have background color of, let's say this, right? Then we can then do the other ones. Item 2 should be white, right? Hash FFF. Then let's see item 3. Item 3 should be, let's say green. All right. So when you come back here, so can you see now that we have those items? Item 1, item 2, item 3. The blue you are seeing is because of the gap, right? That's why I told that there will be gap between them. If I were to remove this guy, right, this gap, you see that it will close up. So can you see now? All right. So item 1, item 2, item 3. All right. So I want to believe now that you know what to do when you want to set up your grid item, like the flow. Your container must be there, then the grid items with their style and all that. And in order to make this a grid container, you must use display of grid on it. You can set gap property. So like I said, there are other things that we need to set for this to work. So let's just move on the basics. So then another thing that some terminologies that you need to be aware of and know what they actually do is grid lines, tracks, cells, and areas, right? You need to understand it because I'm going to be saying it and it's central to grid. You need to understand what they mean. So grid lines, right? So these are invisible lines that divide the grid into rows and columns. So let me show you here. So you can see that we have lines here, right? Along this is column 1, column. So we have line 3, right? Line 4, line 5, line 6. So we have six lines. So those are the lines along the column. We also have lines along the horizontal. Line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, line 5, line 6. So you are not going to see these lines when the page is done, right? So that's why we call them invisible lines that divide, right, your grid layout into rows and columns. So I want to believe that is very clear. So that's it with grid lines. We also have grid tracks, right? So when you say tracks, this refers to the rows and columns between the grid lines, right? Just like we have here. We have in between this line 1 and line 2, we have this column track, right? So you can see here, column track. This is the second column track, third one, fourth one, fifth one. So we have 5 columns here, right? Then along the horizontal too, we have row track. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are the tracks, right? The whole space here, this whole thing between line 2, line 3, line 3, line 4, line 4, line 5. Those are the tracks. And along the horizontal is a row track. Along the vertical is a column track, right? I also want to believe that that is clear. Those things are important because there are times that you're even doing CSS, you'll be using short cuts, short syntax, or yeah, so 2/3, stuff like that, span 2 to this and all that. So then we have grid cells. So grid cells refers to the single rectangular spaces. For instance, this is a grid cell. It's another grid cell, and that one, and that one, and that one, and that one, and that one. So those are what we call grid cells. Then we also have grid areas, group of cells forming a large region. That's grid area. So you can see here we have this whole area as grid area. This grid area is very important because I showed you some diagrams earlier, right? And if you remember something like this, so this is taking the header section is taking the whole column, as you will see. Whatever number of columns we have here, the head section is stretching it. That's because the head section is made to cover many grid cells. So this is what we call grid area. The header section is occupying a grid area, combining many cells together. The same thing with here, combining many cells together, combining many cells together, combining many cells, combining many cells. The footer is also stretching the whole column, combining many cells. That's what we mean by grid area. So I'm also going to show you that. All right, that's it with that. Then we'll come here, grid template properties. So just like I told you, by just saying display of grid will not show you anything. You need to specify the template rows and template columns. That's what I mean by grid template properties. Pay attention to it because this is where the actual setting of grid columns and templates to make your layout starts, right? So you can define rows and columns using the grid templates rows and grid template columns property. So just like we've done display grid, we now need to set the number of rows that we want and the number of columns, right? So for instance, now this is a 2-column layout, right? This is a 2-column layout. And these two column layout can take different units, right? It can be in pixel, it can be in percentage, it can be in fraction, right? Depending on what you are doing and how responsive you want it to be. So if you are not bothered about responsiveness, you can use pixels here as your column unit, right? But fraction is more responsive, right? And we'll talk more about that. So one fraction is and one fraction and two fraction is just saying that after having the actual content of the element, right, whatever space is left, right, just grow into it. It's more like flex grow, right? Distribute what is left, right, equally. Distribute what is left. This one is going to take one portion. This one is going to take two portion of what is left. So it's going to make things more responsive. Let's just try to demonstrate this. So we want a two-column system. We'll come back here and we'll say grid templates, right? Columns. So this is what we set the column. And let's say we want, let's start with the pixel first. We might say we want 200 pixel. The first column should be 200 pixel. The second column should be 300 pixel. So this is going to form a two-column system automatically. We are not setting the row yet, but let's just see what happens, right? So can you see now we have a two-column system already. So we have a two-column system. So we have, this is the first column. You can see that this so these other ones now, if we were to use fraction, it will grow this item 2 and item 1, right? We actually take one fraction, two fraction. They will distribute this in fraction 1 and 2, right? This is going to take two fraction of what is left here. This is going to take one fraction and they are going to grow into it. But right now we set them to pixel, which is not responsive. So if I were to change this to 1FR, let's see what will happen. 1FR, right? One portion of the space that is left, 2FR. The second column takes two portion of what is left. There won't be space again because they will grow into it. So can you see now? Can you see that now? Item 2 grows into what is left, right? And taking two portions of it. This one took only one portion, and that's why we have this. So we are going to have a two column set that is responsive, right? In ratio 1:2. Any other thing that comes in, if you have multiple divs, right, they are going to maintain this two column system. I want to believe that that is clear enough. Then we can also set the grid template rows, right? Grid template rows. This is where you set the height and the width of the row, how wide you want the row to be. So this is just the default because I already set a height property, right, on the items. That's why we are having that 100 pixel. But if I want to change that, right, I might set this to, let's say 200 pixel. So this one now we apply to the first column. If I have to save it, it will apply to the first column. So can you see now that the first column, this row, I mean, right, is going to be 200 pixel wide. So you can see now that I have here from here to here. So if I were to set the second one, so let's say the second one is 300 pixel, right? So that we also now we have how many rows here? Can you see now that it's longer, right? How many rows do we have here? We have row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, right? So this one is 200% wide. So it depends on what you are doing, but you must be able to, I do also want to start applying colors to the lines so that you will see. But I want to believe that you already understand how lines are counted because I told you this line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, line 5. So we have 5 lines and 4 rows, right? So this one is wider than what we have here because of what I set here already, right? So there are times that all you just want to set is a minimum. So you can use what this function min-max. Minimum, the first argument, this is a function, the first argument is going to take the minimum you want for the rows. So I might just say this pixel, right? Then the other ones, if they are not set, we just set it to auto, right? So this is also valid. So you can see that already. So the one that is set is going to be there. The one that is not set is going to just default to auto, meaning that the browser will set it, right? But this time around is using this one that is set for each grid item. So that's it with this and this. So what we can also do, there's another thing we can do aside this. Let's move on. naming areas. This is very important, right? And this is where I want to demonstrate something like this, right? Naming areas. We have how many items here? We have header, we have sidebar, we have content one, content two, content three, and we have the footer, right? So, and this is a how many column system now? Let's say this is column one, column two, column three. So let's just say this is a three column system. So let's say this is the smallest one. And let's just say this is a three column system, right? For now. Um, So what we can do here is that, okay, let me also show you that from here. So you can see that what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to set grid template areas, right? The header one, the header section, the sidebar, the main. So just don't bother about this. I will use this as an example so that it will be clear to us, right? So we have set our grid template rows. We have set our grid template columns. This one is using two column system, right? So I will use three column system. So, and I will assume that this is going to be fixed with the side now. So this is going to be fixed with, I'm going to use pixel. The other ones are going to be responsive, right? Maybe one FR, one FR each. So it's going to now be three column system eventually. So let's set that now. So like I've explained, this is going to be, let's say this one is 100. Okay, let's say this is, I don't know how wide, let's say 200 pixel for the side now column. Then let's say this one is 1FR. Let's say this one is 1FR. So eventually we have a three column system where this is fixed, right? For the side nav column here, this part, and the other ones are not fixed, right? You need to practice this to be able to gain mastery. So then what we now want to do is we are saying the minimum for each row. For the first row is 200 pixels. The minimum for the rows is 200 pixels, right? So, but when it's not set, we set another value. So yeah, we just want to say grid is how you do it, grid template area. This is grid template areas, right? And you now begin to define the areas that we want. So before you start defining the areas, what you usually do is, let me just change this. Instead of using dot grid items here, okay, let me just keep that. So instead of using item one here, I will call this header, right? Then I will call this, what do we have here again? Header, I will call this side nav, side bar, right? Then I will call this main, let's say, yeah, content, content one, right? Then you can also have this, if you know the name of those contents, you rather use it, right? Content two, I'm just doing that, content three. So let's just say for, or better still, so let's have this. So I would say if you know all this already, right, you can just keep to the actual demonstration of the project. So, but if you are new to this, I will advise that you stick to this, right? That's very important. Knowledge is very important for mastery. Then content three. So I think the last thing there will be the footer section. So we can just call this footer, and this will be the footer. All right. So when I come back to the page, of course, you can see what we have now, right? So the header section is here, the sidebar is here, and the content section is here. So those divisions are not there again because I've removed them. So if I were to come here now, and I would just say, so what you just do is, since I know I have three column system, right? And I want, this is a template now. I want the head section, the header, right, to actually fill the entire columns, right? So what I mean is like this. I want the header section to take the whole column 1, column 2, column 3, fill it in, right? And stick to the top row. That's row 1. So what you are going to do here is you are going to set this as header. So the name is very important. Whatever name you are using, right? Header. I have 3 columns, header. So you must be able to identify the number of columns you have so that you're able to place this correctly. Header. You are forming the shape. So what you now do is that grid items, you come here. Let me remove this. Okay. The text to the center, no problem. So here, instead of setting grid 1, we have changed it to header. So just say dot header, right? Then what you now do is for this to work, for it to pick this in the grid template area definition, you need to come here and say grid area. So you are saying for this header, the grid area is header, right? You just point it like that. Don't put it in quotation. The grid area is header. And usually too, when you over on these things, these guys have a way of giving you clear, right? So when you come here now, so can you see that now that the whole header section has now taken the entire column, right? That just because of the definitions I have here. Here, I said it should take the first, it should occupy the first column, second column, third column, right? And I assigned the definition, the grid area to header. So this name must be exactly what you have here. So let's move on to the sidebar, right? So I have sidebar, right? Which is the white portion, right? The sidebar. Let me be sure that that name is correct. Okay, sidebar. All right. So that's a typo, sidebar. You can see where the sidebar stays, but I will align it properly now. So what we are going to do here is that in the template area section, I'm just going to say down here, I'm going to come down here. I'm going to put another one. All right. So let me just move this down like this. So here we are going to say sidebar. So beside the sidebar, what should be next? Sidebar, in terms of what I have here, I have content 1. Content 1 is taking the whole thing. After that, sidebar content 1, right? So what we just do is we just come here and say sidebar contains content underscore 1. So let's do it like that. So content underscore 1, you're also going to repeat it. Don't forget it's a 2-column system, 3-column system, and we are maintaining that content underscore 1, right? So this pattern should be making sense to you now. So we can also come down. You see that we have another one here, which now allows for content 2 and 3, but we see have the side now, right? Sidebar coming down there too. So at this point now, we have the sidebar content 2, content 3. Here we have sidebar content 1. Here we have header, all true. So here you just come here and say sidebar again, sidebar. Then you have content 2, and then you have content underscore 3, right? So the last one is now the footer. So the footer, if you look at what we have here, the footer takes the entire, just like we have for the header, right? So you just come here and say footer 3-column footer, right? Don't forget that we'll set our column here already to 3. So everything is going to maintain that. We are just trying to assign the different sections we have, right? Map them to their own grid area. So for the dot sidebar, we need to set the grid area to also sidebar, right? It must be exactly what we have in the definition here, right? Then content 1, let me look at the class names here, content underscore 1, content underscore 2, underscore 3. So you do the same thing here, right? This is very simple if you pay attention and practice it. So here we have, instead of item 3, right? Let's just say content underscore 1, right? Just say grid area. So the area you want to occupy is what was defined as content underscore 1 in the template definition. This is the template definition, right? So we are doing the mapping. If you do just this and you don't map them, right? Yeah, it won't work. So then we can now do the other ones. I'll also give them different colors. The second one and the third one. So underscore 2, right? So this should map to 2. Underscore 3, this should map to the third one, right? Let's just change these colors. Let's say purple. And let's change this one to something different. Purple, let's change this to pink. Then the footer section. Footer section. So this is going to be dot footer 2 because it's a class, right? So grid area, that's not going to say footer because that's the name that we use there, right? So let's just say we want the background color so that we can see the areas, background color of aqua. So I can assure you now that things are properly placed. By the time you check back, right, you see that. Can you see now? Can you see now? So we have um, we have the other section here. The footer is taking the full area. Okay, I think we have one div that is not taken care of. Content 1, content 2, content 3, which flows, this flows. Where's this other one coming from? Okay, yeah, that's the background. I think that's the background. Yeah, I think that's the background. It has something to do with it. But the side nav is supposed to span this column. Let me see what could be wrong there. So we have content 1, content 1, content 2, content 3. All right, so I just want to remove this line. No, this line should not be there. Then this side nav is meant to cover these 2 rows, right? But it's not doing that at the moment. Let's just try to fix that. I think the issue is coming from here. So let's just set this to auto, right? Auto means that it just fits into whatever the content is, right? So as you can see now, we have that. So another issue is that this is not growing into this because it's supposed to cover this area and this area. And that is not happening because I initially set height on the grid items. And once that is done, it will not stretch out. So once I remove that, we should have something like this. Right? Yes, consider this work now. The other section, the sidebar is spanning 2 rows. We have gap of 20, and this is the shape we wanted. So I want this to stretch out, right? So along the rows now, I want to adjust the rows, right? So you can just come to grid templates. Instead of doing this, we have how many rows in total? We have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can just come here and say repeat function, right? Repeat 4 times. Then I will set a minimum and a maximum, min max. So I will set a minimum of, let's say, 200 pixel. Then the other ones should be auto. So we are saying that for each row, it should minimum of 200 pixel, right? But as the content grows, it can also grow so that we won't have anything called overflow. So this is going to apply to the 4 columns, and we are going to have something. So you can see now, the header section is just here, right? The side nav is here. The content 1 is here. The content 2, content 3, and the footer. So this is exactly the layout that we have here, right? So if you practice that, right, you are good to go, and you can take that understanding to design any other layout that you want, right? You can have overlaps and all that. So we are just starting. There are other things around grid that we still need to quickly iron out. So that's it with that part. So now just a recap, we've talked about grid lines, tracks, cells, and areas, and I want to believe you know what that is now. Then grid templates, setting grid template properties. We talked about template rows and template columns, and I've shown you how to do that, right? Then we also seen naming areas so that we can have our grid items, right, stretch through some areas of the template column and rows. So we've also seen an example in that, right? Auto placement. I think I've done something like that. That was what I did here for the row auto placement using repeat function, right? So you can also use that repeat function along the column. So if you want this to be all, maybe you want 3 columns of all equal sizes, right? You can just say 3, you can just say repeat here. I can just say repeat 3 or repeat 1FR. So that will just ensure that all the 3 columns are of equal. So you can see now the sidebar, all of them are of equal width, right? Sidebar, this and this, we have 3 columns. So, but it's scarce to actually see this when you have sidebar involved. The sidebar will always be a fixed width, right? That's it with auto placement. So usually when you're dealing with photo gallery is when you use this, and you just want, whenever you have, even if you have 20,000 images, right, they're just going to repeat like that without you having to manually define each of those columns. So let's leave that. Then we have so grid alignment property. So this is where we are rounding up now, right? So when after setting all this, so there are times that when dealing with the content, you want to align them just like we have in Flexbox, right? You can also do the same thing here. You can align a grid item, but that will only be possible if we have space, right? If we don't have space, there is nothing to move into. So currently now I know if I were to set those things, it won't work because there is nothing to move into. So you can have precise control over the alignment of grid items and tracks, right? So that's what alignment property is all about. For instance, you have the align item. So for us to be able to see the properties I'm talking about, the effect of the properties I'm talking about, right, I will need to make some adjustments to what we have currently, because you can see that if you want to move things to the center now, you won't even know because the content, what we have already filled everywhere, right? So we need to create space. So the way to do that is for this minimum, right, for the rows, I'm going to set this to 50 pixels, right? So that we can have some space here. So we have space here now. Even though we have space here, it's still not space because the container is just, this is where understanding is key, right? And at times, in order to see this thing, you have to, you have to do some checks. If I were to do background color of black, you will see that there's still no space. Can you see? So if I were to be moving content now, it won't move because there's no space for the children to move into. But what I can do here to see what we want to do is to set a height for this container. I'll just say height of 100 VH. That means the view screen. So it will stretch. The container, can you, no, not that, not this. Okay, I have 100 VH, right? Here I have min max of 50 pixel. Okay, so let me change this also to let me change this to say 300 pixel by 300 pixel, just something that will not fill everywhere. All right, so we have space to the right now. We have space to the right. Then I see one space to the bottom side of things. I think that should be in effect already. I don't know. Minimum of 50 pixel auto. That's supposed to work. All right, so let's change this to 50 pixel. Right? So by the time you check here, so you can see now that we have enough space. Now I can start talking about moving this content around, right? Because without that, whatever property I'm using there will not work. So here now I can say align content, take note, align content, center, right? So it's going to move things along the, can you see now? It moves it along the vertical, right? Along the vertical. Then we also have uh, justify items, center. So it's going to move it to the center. Okay, no, not that. Um, justify content to the center. So can you see now? So align content and justify content is what moved these guys around. So, and I think that is in line with what I'm trying to explain here, right? So this one has to do with grid align items, justify items. So the other one I'm supposed to talk about is the align content and justify content, which is the entire grid items, right? And that is what we are using now. So that's part of start, which is the default. You can set it to end, center, stretch, space between, right? Space evenly. So what we have here is center. I can set this to end if I want, right? And you can see that it's now to the end. So I want to believe that you understand what I'm trying to say, right? So this is just to allow us move the content around. In this our example, it doesn't make sense that you are moving the entire template around. So it will be, usually this moving around will be useful if you are in any of these sections. Maybe you are in under content 3 and you are using grid, right? You might choose to want to move items around. But yeah, I'm just trying to show you that you can move items around. But if you were to be building the layout, you will not be moving the items around this way because everywhere things will be fixed, right? Um, so that's it with that. If you use stretch, it just means that space around, space between, right? So all these things are here. So you can see the behavior there, right? So I'll just stick with this because usually this is the most commonly using align content, justify content. Then the align items, right, is just to move items along the grid lines and the grid columns. That's why when I use, if I use align items here, so you see that things will be moved along the lines, right? Not the actual content. So you see that behavior now, right? So if you don't understand things very well, this might not make sense to you, but items now are moved along the grid lines, right? And they along the grid line columns and the grid line rows, right? So there are times that you need to use that also depending on the design that you're working with, but the common one is the justify content and align content, and it will just allow you move your uh items around, right? So I don't want to bore you too much with this, so I believe that you've been able to pick the basic things that you need, right, to build this project. So of course, when you learn stuff like this, you will need to read more to be able to get into advanced usage, right? So Flexbox and grid comparison. So in terms of layout, Flexbox is one dimensional. So it's either along the row or column where you will need to specify the flex direction, right? For grid is two-dimensional, right? Row and column at the same time. Alignment is item focused. This one is container focused. Then use cases. So this is best for menu, toolbars, and lists. So this one is best for the entire page or section layout. So in our case now, we did for the entire page, right? And we're able to use the grid template layout to actually lay out the template. So we already have, let me just revert back to what we had before that explanation, right? So we already have things spelled out here. Yeah, so that brings us back to our initial layouts. Okay, this should be something like 200. All right, so we have that set up. So play with this thing and you'll be good to go. Again, if this is too fast for you or you don't get it, just try and rewatch it and try and practice this out yourself. So now we can now move into the practical section where we try to build this, right, using what we have learned. So let's start working on this now. Okay, let's just start bringing in things that we need at the head of the HTML document. So I need to link to a font awesome icon, right? So it's easier doing that via CDNGS. So I've been doing this most of the time. Just go to library, I'll scroll down and you'll be able to see the library we want to use, OCDN we want to use. That's font awesome, right? Can copy the link tag and just come here and paste. I want to paste it before the CSS, right? The main CSS, just paste it like that and save. So we are connected to CDN now. We can now use link icons. Then, okay, let's also have, let me change this to color service. We've connected the CSS. Okay, so now we are going to get rid of what we have here, right? Because we now want to start doing something else. So I will just call this grid grid layout, just to let you know that we are using grids to layout. It does not mean we will not use Flexbox. You will see where I'll bring in Flexbox, right? So here I'm going to have a div, right? And it's going to be it's going to be given a class name of wrapper. So I want to pay attention to the class names because I'm going to be targeting that, right, to when we are styling. Class name of wrapper. So inside that, I just want to deal with the what we have here first, right? Here. So I have this navigation section. If you notice this particular dashboard, I have the navigation section. I have the side nav, right? I have this aside. I have this main content area, and I have the footer. So those are the grid sections I want to set up, right? This nav section, sidebar, this main area, and this. So let's follow that. Here I'm going to have the nav bar. I'm also labeling it so that it's going to be easier for you to track. And here I will just call this nav. Let's use nav elements for that. And this is going to have a class of nav bar, right? And here we are going to have, so this is where packaging also matters. There's a saying that as you lay your bed, that's how you sleep on it. So when you are styling, it's not just about applying classes. So it's also about taking time to look at the structure that you have and make sure that your CSS is properly structured. Look at this now. On these navigation items, I have in my own mind, I'm dividing it into two sections. I have some items to the left. I have some items to the right. I'm going to package items in the left inside a container. I'm also going to package items inside by the right inside the container. So the nav element is going to have two direct children, the items on the left, the items on the right? So that way I can begin to use flex, right? And do things like I'm supposed to do it. So nav bar, I'm going to call this, okay, let me just use a descriptive name, class of nav bar underscore left, right? Navbar underscore left. Then just like we have that, we're also going to have navbar underscore right. All right, so let's deal with the contents inside the left navbar. So what we have there are just icons, right? These icons. So let's bring these icons in. So we're just going to have which is the icon element. Then here we are going to connect. That's why I connected to that CDN library, font awesome icon, so that we can just use this FA that's solid, right? Some of these things, because I'm already used to it, I'll be able to do them directly, right? So like if you are confused about how to get these names, you can just go to font awesome icon and you'll be able to search for them, right? Font awesome icon library. So once you come here, you can just fontawesome.com/search. So you can search for any icon that you want, right? And you'll be given the tag that is appropriate. So if I say user here, right, I'll see icons related to user. If I want to use this, it's free. The ones that are pro will not load because they need to be paid for, right? So can you see where I'm getting those stuffs now? When you click here, you see, can you see now FA solid, FA user, right? We are not doing React. If you're doing the React, this is what you copy. Font awesome icon, right? We'll still get to that on this channel, but for now, we're just doing vanilla. We're just doing vanilla way. Here, FA video. So I want to believe that you get what I'm trying to do now. So I'm also going to have FA solid, FA phone, then FA bookmark, then FA magnifying lens, FA magnifying. If you are following me, right, and it looks at any point you encounter a bug, maybe you are not getting what I'm getting, just look at your code very well. It's common for beginners to have typo, right? And if you are not patient to look through your code, you might be looking at it and you will not even see. So mentally process, analyze what you have, and make sure that we have exactly the same thing typed. So you know why I'm arranging this way, right? So this, even though this is going to be the left div and this is going to be the right div, right? I will be able to use Flexbox to arrange this item. That's the whole essence of Flexbox and Grid, being able to arrange items, right, within a container. So, and that's what I want to do here. So eventually I'm going to use this as display of flex and I'll be able to align this the way I want. So the same thing to the right section. So to the right section, we have just two things there. We have this icon, class side, okay, not that, FA-solid, FA-solid, FA-user, right? Then just to be fast, copy this and replace that with FA bell for notification. So those are the things that we want on the navigation. Now I'm done with the HTML for that, right? So what I can do now is outside it now, I can come down here and then say the next thing is the sidebar. So this is how you walk so that it will not be, because as the file grows, if you don't set up this way, things can be confusing. So if you check here now, I'm done with this, like the HTML, right? No style here. And I want to focus on this side now. Things that are supposed to be there, just like that, right? And if you check what we have already, okay, I think I will need to, since I've removed that, let me just relaunch this. All right, so can you see the icon now? And you can see that it does not look like what we have here. So CSS is very important and powerful. So, but let's move on. On the side bar, right, we want a div is going to be inside a div. So we have two direct children now. We have two divs now that are children of this wrapper. So this is going to be display grid, right? This is the first child, and this is the second child that we are dealing with now. This is going to have a class of sidebar. I'm taking time, I'm talking along, I'm taking time to explain this because this understanding is important if you want to start doing it yourself, right? You need to be able to think this way. So we have a div, and this is going to be a class of sidebar underscore logo, right? So, and of course, if you check here, you see that we have a logo here. So this is the logo, and this is the navigation item. So I have three items here: the logo, the navigation item, and this logout button, right? So that's what I'm trying to set up here. So this div houses the logo, and inside the logo, we just have an icon with a class of FA solid, right? FA dash video. So that's what we have for that part. Okay, so outside the logo side of things now, let's have the UL. So that will actually be a container to hold the navigation list. So whenever you're using UL, it's expecting list item as its children, right? Even if you're going to have any other thing, the direct child of a UL should be a list element. Then inside there, you now have icons that we want to use. So here I'm just going to have class of FA dash solid, FA dash solid, right? Then we can just duplicate this to represent the rest. FA solid. Let me just add more. So FA solid, FA dash video, right? Then again, FA solid, we have FA dash phone. Then here we have FA solid, FA dash image, right? We have FA solid, FA dash user, FA solid, FA dash bell, right? Then FA solid, FA dash gear icon, right? I think those are the things that we have there. And outside this navigation, right, we now have this button, the logout button, right? And here we are going to have a class of log out. And then we are going to have icon that represents that, right? Class of FA solid to FA solid, FA dash arrow dash right dash from dash brackets. All right, so if you come back to this page, right, you'll be able to see what we have. Can you see now? We have this list item, right? And then we have this. So you see now that if all you know is HTML, you've not you've not done anything, because this is looking far away from what we have here, right? So CSS is very, very important, and it can be technical if you don't, can be frustrating if you don't have understanding of what is going on. All right. So we are done with the sidebar, right? Look at it now. This div, this is starting and this is the ending down here. We have three items there: the logo section, the list section, the list element, and then this logout button. And that's exactly what we have here, right? That's exactly what you have here: this, and this. So you package things as you are working. It's very important. Then moving away from the sidebar, we can now go on to something else. Let's go on to, I think we should undo the main now. Start the sidebar, let's do the main screen. And here we are going to have the main elements. So since we have the main elements, don't forget we've talked about the appropriate use of HTML syntax. If you use div here, nothing, no worries, right? But there's a right element to use. Class of main. Then inside that we have, so you know how the way the main is, right? Look at it here. I have this whole section is the main, right? And I have this container. I'm going to be using Flexbox here, and that's why I will need to position things. So this whole icon right? It's going, all these items, these users are going to be inside one container so that I can display that container flex and I'll be able to position these guys the way I want them positioned, right? Then this one too. So we'll see. Let's just continue. So outside that main, I want a div, like I've mentioned, and that div we have a class of that div. We have a class of main underscore video. You see the way I'm actually underscore calls. You see the way I'm actually taking time to name um, the class names, right? So I'm ensuring that if we have children elements, right, the class names are picking from the main the parent screen class name. So main underscore video underscore this. So this is another way to actually ensure that you don't have class name clashes. So inside this particular one, right? Then we now have, we're going to have different, so this is like the container now, main video calls. All right, so this is like the container, right? So I'm now going to start dealing with the children items within that container, right? So let me just put content here. Um, Here we are going to have a div, right? And then class of, let's just say main video call, right? Main underscore video. So when, if you are following me, make sure that if I'm using double underscore, right, make sure because if you are trying to, by the time you try to start writing the CSS, if the class name is not correct, of course, you know it will not pick it. So main underscore video dash call, right? And inside that div, you are going to package each user, right? So each user is having this image section, right? And then the title. So here I'm going to have another div, right? And I'm going to tell you, okay, I will actually say that here. So why, there's a reason why I'm going to place this image inside a div, right? That's because I'm going to give this div, right, a fixed width and height. Then I'm going to use border radius of 50% so that it will be circular. Then on the image itself, I'm going to set the width and height to 100% so that no matter how big this image is, right, it will fit into this container. And I'm going to give it border styles, right? So this is going to be, let's just call this main underscore video, right, dash icon. Then here we're just going to have this image tag, right? Alternate, I'm just going to say user, right? Then the source. So you notice that I have some images here that I've brought in, right? So if you check my GitHub repo too, you should also see these icons. You see these images if you do want to use them, and you can also prepare yours if you want to. So this is /images folder, right? What I'm looking for there is profile 3, right? So, and that's it for that section. Then, like I told you, on this particular one, I'm going to set the width to 100% so that it doesn't grow outside its container. I can also do this inside the CSS, but good, let's just have this here. So we can also have height of 100%. So what I mean by that is I could have just said here. So there are some things that I used to normally do that I've not done, right? Image tag, I can just set that anywhere you have images, set the width to 100% of its container. Then the same thing, set the height to 100% of its container. That will ensure that the content, no matter how big the image is, it will fit into its container if the container is restricting it. So inside the body, let's just have this default reset. And just say padding of 0, right? So that any browser default is removed. Margin also of 0. right? For ULs, usually there will be padding. So I can just say UL, might say padding. Okay, no, this would have removed. Okay, if I want all paddings removed, I should do this inside the universal selector, right? Here, asterisk. So select all elements, right? And let's have that padding of, all right. So I will not need to do this. If I'm going to do this, it will be maybe removing the lister, but let's just have this. Then here, you can just say box sizing of border box. You should know why we are setting this to border box now, right? For the body, okay, I think I will just continue with this. Our focus has been on the HTML. We'll come back to this, but I just needed to quickly show you that, right? So outside this particular div, don't forget that this is the main content. This is the div, right? Holding each container, this container, the image and the title, the image and the title. There's a div that is holding them, and that is the div. So we have this image section, right? Then underneath it, we now have heading 4, right? Representing the title. And this one will just say John Barry, right? So that's it with that section. So the beautiful thing now is that we don't need to repeat ourselves for these sections again. We just want to copy the same thing. We have by the time we start one, right? It will apply to everything. So we just have that. The only thing we are changing here is, okay, let this be profile 4, another image, and we can just update the name to William Smith, right? We can do the same thing for the rest. So let me just do it 2 more times. We have 4, right? Here, we can pick, where is that? So I have 4, 2 already. 1, 2, 3. So let's say this is 6, profile 6. And this is going to be, let's say, Janet's lol, right? And the last one, I just say this one is Sarah Wine. Let's use icon 7. Sarah Wine. All right, so that is what we have for that section. And you can see that it's not stressful at all. Once you know what you are doing, right, it won't take time. So that's that with that section. The other thing there, right, which is the core controls. Okay, let me just have it. So underneath the main section, that's outside outside this one, we have to this inside the main. I have this main video call, so that is this area, this one's, right? So this one too, now I want this, right, in the same container, but not in the same container that where we have this. So I will now use flex column. They will still be arranged to sit on one another, right? In terms of this and this will be made to sit along the vertical, right? Don't worry, I'm trying to see all this, but by the time I'm doing CSS, it will also be clearer. So underneath the main section, we want another div, and that will be the core controls, right? So let me just call this call control. And here we are going to have a class of call underscore controls, right? And down there, we are going to have icon elements, right? Let's say this is going to be a class of FA solid, FA dash lists, right? Let me just copy this. We have, I think, 4 of them. Then we have this, we have this, we have this. So the second one is FA video, right? Video. So here, this is what I'm doing, right? This is the first one, this is the second one, video, call and all that. So this one is having a special style. Have you noticed there's a circle around it? The icon is placed inside a circle. So I'm going to do the same thing here. So that means the third one will be placed inside a div, right? So that I can actually give the div width and height that will restrict the icon, and then give it border radius of 50% so that it can be circular, and give it background color and all that. So class of call underscore controls, right? Dash active. So more like the active tab, right? This is going to be FA phone. FA phone. You won't see anything until this has been started. Then the last one is FA dash award, right? So we are done with that section. We can now have the other side, which is the aside, right? The aside is talking about this, right? This is the aside. Then we have the footer. So if you come here now, so you can see that this image is big. There's no CSS yet. Fine, right? And we have footer. So this is the other side of things. When I say other side of things now, I mean the controls, this control, right? So let's now work on the aside, right? On the aside, I'm going to use aside. There's an element called aside, and just like it just shows you related content to just to a tag for representing related content to the main content, right? Class of, let's just say class of aside also. And inside here, we are going to have heading 4, and that's going to be people joined, right? People joined, just like we have here. This is it here. I'm also going to be using Flexbox here. So the aside is going to be display Flexbox. These guys are going to be packaged to the center, right? So once you master Flexbox and Grid, your life is easy. You're able to do a lot of things from the front end side of things. Even when you start using libraries, CSS libraries for styling like Tailwind and Bootstrap and all the likes, right? You will still understand what is going on, and you will not struggle. So here we have div. We have div, and that's going to have a class of, let's just say aside underscore users, right? Underscore list, right? So that's the div that is going to hold the user list. So inside there, I'm going to have div of aside user. So don't forget, to every user that we have here, there is this image and there is the title, the image, the title. So this is what I want to represent now. I will do one first, then we'll duplicate it to do the rest, right? So let's do the first one. This one, we know that this image, because it's big, it must be inside a div that is given fixed width and height, border radius of 50 so that it can be centered, and then border color, right, of white. So just make sure that that's what I'm trying to do here, making sure that my HTML is well positioned for that particular style. So usually when you are designing, you look ahead. You look ahead. How do I want to style this? Make sure that your CSS is HTML is positioned that way. So here we have aside underscore user, right? So this is a single user now. So inside a single user, I want to put the image in a div, right? So I'm going to give this guy a class of aside underscore user, right? Dash icon. So that's more like the icon container. Then we now have img, right? The image tag for the icon. And this is just going to be dot slash images, right? We are picking the profile one, right? Then the alternate text is just user profile. So that's for that container, right? Then we can come outside that. So here also we want to give width and height of 100%, right? 100%. Then here also height of 100%. So once we are done with that, the next part is actually the title. So let's just use span element here and put John Stone as the title. So we have a single user now, right? We can now duplicate it as much as we want, right? So this part, let me just do this one so that I get what I'm saying. Then I will not want this video to be too long, right? So the other one, I'm going to do it myself. Then I'm going to come back once I've done that. So user profile, let's just keep it that way. So this one is Regina Stones, right? Regina Adams, right? So those are the two now that I have set up, right? If you come here and try to check, so can you see now that we have two users? The first one is the image is very big, no star yet, John Stones. The second one is Regina Adams, right? So the other ones, let's just keep things short, right? I'm going to just bring them in. All right, so I have the other items in now. You can now see we have Sarah Wine, we have Janet Lord, we have William Smith, and other items now coming. So that's away from the aside. Where's the aside flag? So that, okay. So outside the aside, I think the last section here in terms of building our template is the footer. The footer. So even though I spoke about Flexbox, it's for sections inside the grid area template that I'll be working on, right? So here we are going to have the footer. We're going to add the footer, and just something simple for us to work with. I'm going to have a class of footer, right? Then we are going to have a paragraph. And we're just going to have ampersand copy. So this short code for copyright, ampersand copy, right? Then we can just say here I'm going to have concept first to mastery, right? Comma 2024. So that's all we are going to have there. So we are done with this HTML, which is great, right? So that's it. Now, before we start styling, right, which is what we help us complete what we are doing, you notice that here, you also want to quickly tackle that. When I go here, I have another screen, right, which is the phone.html, this, right? So this is also using grid to set up this, right? So I also want to take you through this quickly. So let's just set up for that. And because we are using HTML, so we are going to repeat ourselves for small project. This is okay, but when you want to start building enterprise applications, you cannot be duplicating screens, right? That is where libraries will be useful, like something like React that allows you to reuse component, Vue.js, right, or Angular. So you just have one component that you set up before you reuse it, right, and you build other screens. But for now, I'm just going to duplicate it and we'll edit what we want to edit. So what I will do is I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it phone.html, right? So what I will do is I'm going to copy the entire thing here because we are using the same main.css and the same link, right? So we are just changing something. I'm changing only the main area. And if you look at what is here, the sidebar, all these guys are the same, more like the layout. The only thing changing is the screen, right? If I go back here now, so that the only thing that changes is the screen. It's still the same thing. So here, what we are going to do is we'll just remove everything in the main area first, then we'll change it, right? Okay, just trying to get to that part. This is becoming long and usually it's difficult to manage, right? So that's the main area. So let's quickly have the CSS for that core, right? And I'm also going to try to explain what is going on. So inside there, we're going to have a div, right? And it's going to have a class of main underscore dialer, right? Dialer. Then inside that, we are going to have the dialer header. So just like we have here, we have this head section before this div that holds the key, right? So, and inside here, you can see that we have an input field where you can type number. So here's where you can type the number you want to dial. So for the dialer header, let's have this div main dialer. Let's call this class. Let's call this main underscore dialer, right? Dash header dash icon. So that's just talking about, okay, dash header first. Then inside that section, we want okay, I have an input field. So the header section is divided into two, right? I have this guy where we have the dialer and the icon, and then we have this section where we have the input field. So that's what I'm trying to replicate here. So here we just have a div to hold the top section, and that's because I want to have the input here. I want to add the input field here so that to this particular div, I'm not going to have two children, and I can use Flexbox, flex direction of column, and they will sit on another. So class of this is going to be main underscore dialer, right? Dash header dash top, right? So to that top section, we have two items. We have the title, which is heading 4, and let's just call that dialer, right? Then we also have to the side of it, to that side of this dialer, we have this styled icon. So I'm also going to be using an image for that. So because of that, we're going to have a div that is going to be set with a fixed width and height. So here we just say main underscore dialer because okay, dialer I just don't want a situation whereby the class name will be clashing dash icon. So inside there we are going to have I have dialer, and I have the icon. So for the icon, I just have a div, right? Okay. So inside there, let's just have because let's have the image straight away, and let's have the slash images slash link ing, right? The auth will just be link. I just say link. So so that's it for the top part, right? We'll start that later. Then the other part is the inputs. Let's just say type of text, placeholder, of enter phone number, right? No class. Let's just leave it like that. All right. So that's that for this top part, the header, right? So the other part now is actually the controls. So just a dialer controls. So that's also going to be a div. I will not advise you watch this once. Just make sure that in order to be able to learn what we are doing very well, you can just take breaks, right? Don't try to do it all at once. It's a long one, right? Just make sure that you take breaks and do it in bits, right? So that you're able to process what is going on. So inside main dialer controls, we are now going to have several buttons, right? So we are going to have the first button, and I will just inside that button, I'm going to have this button is going to be a class. It's going to have a class of main underscore dialer dash control, not plural now, singular, right? So inside each button, we have icons, because if you notice here we just have one, but here we have two items, the number and the letter, the same thing here, right? And here. So I'm also setting up that way. So inside this button, we have, let me use pan. Now we just put one as the content, and that's all we have there. So for here, I'm going to use here, instead of waiting to start this, I'm going to start this inline, right, quickly. So the main objective is not to use inline all over the place, but there's nothing that says you can't use it, right, occasionally, like in the case that we have here. So font size of 24 pixel, then let's say font weight of 500. That's more like medium, so that it will be thick enough. So that's the first one, right? We can now begin to replicate these controls. Here we are going to have the same thing, but this is going to be 2 now. So, right. So we just need to style this, and every other thing will pick up the same style. This is going to be 2. So this one is going to be half letter. So we can also have another span, right? Yeah, I'm going to have style. I'm going to style it inline with font size of 14 pixel, right? And here we are going to have A, B, and C, right? So we can just duplicate this also to go to the next one. So the next one is D, E, and F, and it's 3, right? So you get the gist now. We can just replicate that quickly. D, E, F, right? And we'll copy this again to do G, H, I, right? Which should be the fourth one. So this is going to be 4. Then we have G, H, I, right? Then we come down here and do the next one, which is 5, right? And this is going to be JKL, right? And the next one is going to be 6. It's going to be 6, and we are going to have MNO, right? MNO. Then we have this. So you can see that it's a pattern here already, 7, which will make the styling very simple and easy. We have PQRS, PQRS, right? And then for the 8th one, So for the eighth one, we have CUV. Then for the ninth one, we have WXYZ, right? So, and that's not all to it, right? We have other ones. The next one is just star, no control, this one, right? So you can see that things are perfectly centered here. So this container will be display flex, giving border radius to make it circle, background color. Then the items are going to be justified to the center, aligned to the center. So it's going to be the flex direction of column. Everything is going to sit perfectly, right? So for this one, we don't have labels again. So here we just want the asterisk, right? Then for this one, for the next one after the asterisk, we have 0 here. We have 0 here. No, here we have 0. And here we have the plus sign, right? And for the next one, we have hash, right? We just have hash here. And there's nothing here. All right. So away from that part, then we also have something here. We have something here, which is also, I'll still use this, right? But I'm going to remove this, just some modifications. I'm going to remove this, right? So this is not going to be a class of main dollar control again. So we just say class of main underscore dollar underscore control dash back, right? So that we can undo that separately. And this is going to be having image icon at the center, right? And the source of that image is going to be image slash tag cross, right? And can just set this as back key, right? So that's talking about this, right? So the last button that we need here is the call button, right? And that one also is straightforward. So we are going to call this main dialer call instead of back. And here we are going to have icon with a class of FA solid, then FA dash phone. All right, so that is all we need. So we have represented the header section and the buttons, right? And we've positioned very well to style. So we are set up for styling now, and we'll also go into that right away. If you have to check the screen here, right, you won't see that until you go to slash, you just manually visit the slash phone.html. So when you search for this, so can you see what we have here? It does not look like what you're expecting without the style. All right. So let's go back to this and work from there, the index.html. So we have business inside the main.css now, and it should be fun. All right. So let's bring in the fonts. I said the Google fonts that I'll be using, right? So I will be using Outfit and Sora. So if you just search for Google fonts, Google Google fonts. So just click here. I think I have mine saved already, but if you don't have it, you might need to search for it. So you can see that I have 2 items in my cart, 2 items selected. And those 2 items are, they are, where is it now? Get embed. So those 2 items are, let me use at import. Outfit is the name, and Sora, right? So I'll just copy this. So you should do the same. Or I'll copy the at import, not everything, just the at import. Yeah. So you bring that in there so that we can apply that. We can use that in our style. So then I'm also going to be defining my primary root colors, right? So this is how you do it so that you don't have to look everywhere to change things. So usually it's good you keep variables, colors and all that here, right? So that you can use them across your uh, across the HTML or your design. And if you do need to change something, you're only coming to one place to make that change, not that you'll be looking through your code, right, to change color and all that. The colors are here and assign the variable name. Once you change the color from here, it changes everywhere it's used. So this is how to set it up. Column root, then the declaration block. Then you have this dash dash. I'll just call this primary. The name here is up to you, but the dash flag is important. Dash flag is important. So this is going to be hash 09, hash 09, 0994B, right? 09094B. Am I missing something? Hash 09094B. Yeah. So yeah, I was expecting the color to show up. Then I also want dash dash light 100, right? Light 100. So you can have different shades of light, but light 100 is going to be more like full white, hash FFFF. Then we are going to have dash dash danger for red, right? And that's going to be hash 669 1A, right? Then also for success. So that's like green, right? I'm going to just put green here, but you can put color codes, right? If you don't want to. So those are the 4 colors I'll be using, right? And here we already set this. So let's check the body parts, right? What are the things we want to do here? We want to set the font family to outfits, just like I told you. Outfit is the name, right? And outside that, we want to set a fallback to sans serif. So sans serif is native. You don't need to install it. So if this is not available, you can know that we are connecting to we are connecting to this library. So if it's not available, we use sans serif. And if you are wondering where I got how to use it, right, you can see it here. Apart from that, let's set the color, right, that we want to use, the default color we want to use for the text, right? So when you want to use, I set some variables here. When you want to use these variables, this is how you use them. Var, this is a function that takes in the variable color. So what I want here now is white. So you see now that the colors are defined. I'm just in them here. If I need to change anything, I only need to come here and change it. And I will not need to change things across the, I will not need to be looking for codes across the application. So that's it with that part. Then still on common stuffs, right? I've done images with an height of 100%. Let's quickly do anchor element. So anchor elements usually come with some underline as a text decoration, default text decoration. I want to remove it. I'll just say text decoration of none, right? Color, I want it to inherit the color at this point. I'll just say inherit. So inherit means it's going to make use of this body color, right? Because that's the default body color. So I think we are getting there now. So we can remove every other thing that we have here before now, right? Can remove that. Then we can now start styling properly. So I'll just say wrapper. The wrapper, don't forget the wrapper is going to be display grid, because inside the wrapper I have 5 direct children, right? I've told you already when we are laying out our HTML. So we have this wrapper, and inside this wrapper we have this navigation section as the first child. We have the sidebar as second child. We have the main. We have the aside, and we also have the footer. So we want to use grid to lay out that quickly. So here we just say dot wrapper. So that class do exist. Display of grid. So this is where we start applying the basics that will land, right? I'm not going to be using gap here. Just say grid template column straight away of 70 pixel. So 70 pixel in the sense that I want this to be 70 pixel. So can you see that this is small? So this is going to be 70 pixel, right? In terms of column, we have 3 columns, 1, 2, 3. So this is going to be 70 pixel. This is going to be 1FR so that it takes all the available space. And this is going to be also something that is fixed in pixel. So 70 pixel, 1FR, then 200 pixel. So we have a 3-column system. 2 of them are fixed. They are not going to be adjusting. This one is going to take the entire middle screen. And that's why we have something like this, right? So having set that up, let's set the grid template rows. So I'm going to say I don't want to use repeat here because I don't even know how many lines. Okay, let me see here. We have 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's just use something that will not put us in a fix. Minimum. Okay, let's say min max of 30 pixel. So this 30 pixel is going to only apply to the first item, right? So it's more like doing something like this, 30 pixel, which represents the first row, right? And that would mean the navigation. That would mean this. So the height of this section is 30 pixel, right? So the other ones, I'll just put auto. So we'll not specify anything for the other ones. Then the grid template area, grid template areas. So we're just going to have, let me just push this down. So we are going to have sidebar, space nav bar, space nav bar, right? And I've already explained this, right? You can see that the sidebar is part of the first row. Then the nav bar takes the entire thing that is remaining, right? So that's why we have sidebar, nav bar, nav bar. Then we can come down and say the next one also is going to be sidebar. Sidebar is still part of it. Sidebar, sidebar, main, aside, right? Just like you have here, we have sidebar. Sidebar is part of the next line. Main, the whole area is part of it. Then this aside is part of it. So I'm just trying to form that structure, right? Then this one we have footer, 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 footer. So the footer section takes the entire thing. So there's no sharing. So that's what we need for this particular area, right? We now need to ensure that we map things, right? So for the nav bar, it's going to be dot wrapper dot nav bar. I'm using this descendant selector, right? Because I don't want conflicts when it comes to the CSS selector. So grid area, and it's going to be nav bar, just like we named it here, right? And so I just want to set up those things first before we start individual things, right, for the different sections. So the next one, I think, is a sidebar. The sidebar, right? So we are going to have dot wrapper, dot sidebar, right? And we are going to have grid area. I'm just going to say sidebar, right? So the next one, I think, should be the main. After the sidebar, it should be the main. Yeah, the main. So here we can do dot main. So I just do dot wrapper dot main, right? And this is going to also be grid area. Just call it main, right? Then after that, we have the aside. We have the aside. We have the aside, right? And this aside, we are just going to have wrapper, then dot aside. We're going to have grid area also of aside, right? And we're going to have the footer section. The footer, then we're going to have dot wrapper dot footer. So grid area, I'm going to have footer. So the thing now is, if you want to see what's going on here, right? I didn't give any background. Let's say I set the background color here for the footer to var primary, right? So by the time I come here, and let's check here, right? So you can see that the color has changed here, right? So, and of course we set up this already, and you can see that it's already taking shape. All these guys are at the center, right? The ones that are supposed to be aside, they're already pushed here, and you can see the length of the column they are taking, right? You can see the side too here. You can see what they are taking. So the structure is set up already, but it's just that because there is no style here, we can't see it. But we have already formed exactly what I showed you, right, before we started. Again, if this is confusing to you, right, you can just you can give it background color exactly. For instance, in navigation, if you give it background color of black, right, you should be able to see that. So you can see now that section spans here, and it's just 30 pixel, right? If you come here and set background color, you won't need to do this once you've mastered it. I'm just doing this so that you understand what's going on. So you can see that this is, can you see now? This is just 70 pixel, and that is our side nav, right? Then we also have the main area. If you do background color of this for the main area, you also see. So you see that we have something in the main area already. Can you see at the background? So the main area is also captured, right? You can see all that. Then the aside, if you say background color for the aside, let's say it's going to be this also. So you should be able to see that. So can you see now? So this is your side and it's already positioned, right? Then of course, I don't want to believe what I'm trying to say now is clear. Let me just stop there. So I will remove those things, but we have formed our layout already and you have seen it. So the next thing now is to start styling things in each section of our layout. This one will still be there because that's what we have in the design normally, right? I'll just remove this background here. And I'll remove this one here. So we are starting with the nav first. So let's just start let's type what is in the nav section and make it look the way it's supposed to look, right? So for the nav bar section, I want to display this of flex. So again, you see what is here. So you can see we have items to the right, items to the left. This nav will be display flex so that the right can be moved to the right, the left can move to the left, and I can move the items around. Even the items on the left, right, the div that contains the item on the left will still be display flex so that I can use Flexbox to arrange the children in the container that is on the left. The same thing for the right, right? Let's just get into that. Display flex. Right, the moment I do that, I don't need to do flex direction because it defaults to horizontal, and that's what I want. So align items along the vertical now. I want things perfectly aligned to the center so that the elements are going to look good along the vertical. Then justify content. This is going to be space between because we have left div and right div, and I want them to be apart, right? Then padding of 0 and 1 EM. So 0 to the top and bottom, right? 1 EM to the right and left. So we'll still talk about in the coming sections, we'll still talk about units, and I will take time to explain what EM, rem unit, percentage, VH, and all that is all about, right? Then background color. Oh, I just want to set this to light 100, which is that our white background, right? But you see the advantage of that variable now. I will not need to be repeating those colors all over. It's just in one place. So border bottom, 1 pixel, solid, 1 pixel solid, then the color is going to be the primary color, which is this blue, right? So what I'm trying to do here is consider that this navigation is having a border bottom, right? Not border all around, just the bottom. It's having padding to the left and to the right, and that's all I've done, and it's moved around. So if I come here, I should see something that is similar at the top already. Okay, I think it's already there. It's just the text that is not picking up. I think the text is white. So I shouldn't have white there. I should change the color. What is here? Okay, the color here is different. The background is white. So I think that's what I'm supposed to do here. Now, what I need here is, let me set it myself here. Okay, I don't think it will even work here because it has to do with the nav items, right? And that's why we are not seeing it. Yeah, that's correct. Let's just use this for now. Let's use this for now so that the concept of inheritance will come in. So you can see that here, right? Inheritance will take place. So let's just move on, right? Then having styled that, let's say .nav bar underscore, right? Don't forget we have that class for the right navbar. I want to say display flex also. Display of flex, right? I'm going to have align items to the center. Align items to the center. We are going to have gap of 10 pixel between each item there, right? And we're going to have margin to the right. Margin to the right of 10 pixel. So that's for items by the right. So again, I'm not supposed to have this much space here, right? Let me look at what I used. I hope it's not around. No, it's not space around. So what I want is space between. Space between. Yeah, so good. You can see that we have that now. So I think I'm seeing something here, like there's a background color there that is not supposed to be. Okay, I'll remove that eventually. So then the one to the left, let me just copy this and quickly do that. So let's change this to the left to target the left side of things. So it's still going to be similar. Item center, gap of 10. I think that's all. Just to ensure that items on the left are also properly centered like we have it. So can you see that now? So things are shaping out now. Just Flexbox. We have used Grid already to lay out. Inside this section, we are now using Flexbox, right? So after that, we can now do we have icons, right? Don't forget. So still on that navbar section, we can now say dot wrapper, just to target that we are dealing with navbar that is inside wrapper, then all icons that are there. So we want to set the cursor to pointer so that when you hover on them, their navigation links, they will look clickable, right? Then the color here, although I've already set it above to inherit, right? But it's going to be primary. So that means I can remove this. If that's the case, I can remove this from here, right? And just be specific over here. So you can see that we see out the same thing. And now it looks like something I can click because I've said the icons should have that cursor. All right. I think that's that with the navigation section. The next thing now is the sidebar, right? And you can see already that we sectioned things. So on the sidebar here, we are dealing with this area. Grid area is sidebar. Background color is going to be var primary, right? And minimum height is going to be, let's say, 95 view height. So that's the screen, 95% of the view screen. Then here we have, so this sidebar, I'm going to use display of flex on it. Don't forget that this is just part of our grid layout, but now I'm inside the sidebar container itself. And I want to use display on it because it has children, which are 3, right? Can you see now? It has children, which are 3, and I want them to be arranged along the column axis. So here, I'm just going to say display of flex, and we are going to have flex direction because we want things to be along the column, flex direction of column, so that it stretches out. Can you see now? So that it stretches out. Things are arranged down like this, not along the horizontal. So that's just one part of what we want to do. So there are still more. Align items to the center. Now, this is going to be different from, you need to understand how this align item will work now, right? So it's going to be different from when your flex direction is row. Our flex direction now is along the column, right? So our main axis is column here, and justify content is what will move items along that vertical axis. Align items is going to move things along the horizontal. So I just needed to specify that, and you can see that this moved to the center, right? Along when we use align items. If we want things to move like this, right, across our main axis, which is column, we are going to use justify. Then we have outside the line items, then we have the border right of 1 pixel, solid, right, var light 100. So you're going to see that here. If you can see, this is having a faint white border to it. All right, so that's what we need here. Then let's move on with other parts. Let's target other things. The sidebar logo, the sidebar underscore logo. So these are classes again that are on the HTML document already. So this is going to be 50 pixel, right? This is where I told you I will restrict the container of the image, 50 pixel by 50 pixel. So that's going to be square, right? I want it to be circle. So border radius of 50%, border radius of 50% to make it circular. Then in order for you to see things, I want to give a border, just a border of 1 pixel solid, so that the edges are going to be white, solid, this, right? Then the background color should be, I don't think I defined this up there. So let me just quickly put it here so that we can use it also. This is going to be, let me just call this blue, or let me, this looks like, okay, let's call this blue 70, right? The name is up to you. Let's say 58 EB, right? 58 EB. So that's blue 70. So yeah, I can easily come down and say background is going to be var and pick blue 70, right? And so by the time you come here now, you can see, yeah, so you can see that this is there. This icon is supposed to be at the center, right? But it's not center. That is why this container is going to be display flex, and we use flex property to make sure that this guy sits perfectly at the center, right? So we can come here and then say display again. Display should be flex, right? For this logo that we've restricted. Then we can now say justify content, center, align item, center, right? Align item center. So those items are going to be at the very center of the element. So can you see that now at the very center? So then let's just have margin around it. So margin of 1 reminute and 0 pixel. 1 reminute top and bottom, 0 left and right. So I think that's what we want for that. Yeah, so you can see that spacing. Now let's move to this UL, right? Then before this part. I want to believe that you are enjoying this, right? It's part of the fun we are building, but once you have the right knowledge, it's easy. The sidebar, the sidebar UL, right? So we want margin of 2, margin top and bottom of 2 rem and 0. So by the time I save this, you see that there's going to be, margin to the top and bottom of this guy, so that there is space in between each of the item. We could have used gap, but that's also good, right? So after the margin, we also want padding, right? For the content, padding of 0. Although this is not necessary because any padding would have removed by the universal selector, right? And we have list style of none, so that that particular default style will be removed. So you can see that that is gone. Those bullets are gone, right? And we can have color of right. Let's reuse. That's the advantage. Color of white light 100. Then let's have display of, here I'm going to use display of grid, right? Display of grid. So in between grid, you can still use grid again, right? We are going to have gap, that's space between them, each item, gap of 10 pixel. Then we're going to have grid templates columns, and it's just going to be one FR, one column, right? And we are going to have justify content, right? We're just going to move the content to the center. All right, so when you come here, so can you see that this is perfect? Can you see now? All right, so even within the small spaces, you are still using grid and flexbox. After this, you should be a master, right? When it comes to grid and flexbox, if you really practice that. Log out. Let's just say outline. So the button, I'm using button here. Logout is a button. So outline of 0. I don't want any outline. When you over on it, border of sort of 0, right? And width, I just give it a fixed width and height property, width of 30 pixel, right? You also want height of 30 pixel, height of 30 pixel. Then the border radius here is not fully circular, right? So border radius, they just use 12 pixel so that we have curved edges. This is what I mean. Can you see now? So this is not fully circular, but the edges are curved. Then aside that, let's have background color of danger, right? So that it represents that you want to log out. Then cursor of pointer, all right? So that when you over on it, good. So can you see that now? All right, so we are done with 2 sections of the grid and their item, the nav and the side. So let's move away from that. And okay, before I move away, the icon, this icon, let's style it. I just say the side bar dot logout. There's an icon at the center of that, right? Let's say color of light, right? Again, you can reference the HTML again if you have forgotten, right? So, but look at it here. These are logout button, right? Inside it, you have this icon elements, and that's what I'm styling. So yeah, we are just changing the color to white, right? So you can see now. Now let's move to the next section, which is the main, right? The main section. The main section is going to have background of white, just like you would have noticed. Background of light. So if you check what we are working with, you can see that here the background of the main section is white, right? And let me just go back here. Okay, it's white. So background color of white. Then we want to have in the main area, I'm using display of flex, and I've already explained to you why, right? Because I have to direct children. There's a container holding these 4 items and this one, this another one. So 2 direct children within that container, the main container. So I want things arranged in the column so that this container is going to sit on this, right? Along the vertical. So display of flex, I'm going to change the flex direction. Let's say flex direction, it should be column, right? Just like I've explained. Justify content to the center so that everything will be at the center. Justify content center, align items to the center, align items to the center. And you will notice that here, right? That everything here is at the center. So after justify align items to the center, I think basically that is what I need. Again, let's just take a reference from what we are doing. So you can see that everything here is now at the center. The images are still very big. That's because we are yet to style them, right? But we are getting there. So then let's style the dot main underscore video underscore calls. So that is that div that hosts the call. So we are going to use display grid for this one, right? So that we can mix things up. Display grid, we want gap of 20 pixel between the elements, right? 20 pixel. And we want the grid template column should just be 2 rows, grid template columns. So let's use repeat here. Repeat, so 2 columns, each of them should be 1 FR, right? 1 fraction. And for the grid template rows, we are going to just use auto, right? So if you check now, can you see now that things are now maintaining 2 within this main? We now have 2 columns, right? And all of them maintain that. So we are getting there. And we can do main each of, we're not dealing with each of the items, right? Each of the items, you know, the way I packaged it, when you check the main, this is the entire div, right? Each content, this is what I'm talking about. So I want to restrict this. I want to make this circular, right? The image at the center, right? And all that. Here we'll just say, we'll still use display flex, display of flex, right? And okay, let me also do dots main so that we have that dot main. Then display flex direction of column. That's because we have that heading 4 that is a text, right? Flex direction of column. Then justify content to the center, align items to the center. Justify content to the center. You also do align items to the center. So by the time you save this, so you will not notice that because this guy is still very big, right? So let's come here and now try to influence what we have on dot main icon. So instead of having call here, video call, we are going to have icon, right? These are classes that I've placed on the code. You can see that here, right? That is what is going to limit the width of this guy. So here we just have, we have the width set to 240 pixel. 240 pixel. Then we are going to have the height also set to 240 pixel. So we are going to have a square 240 pixel. It should be rounded. So we are going to set the border radius to 50, not border bottom. We're going to set the border radius to 50%, right? And so I don't expect overflow, right? Yeah, there are times that the image will overflow, and that is how you actually, if the images are bigger than the container, right? So overflow of, just the overflow of hidden, so that's, those should be taken away. So by the time you check now, okay, I hope this is not CSS issue. Let me check what I target and what I'm using. So here I have dot main video icon. Okay. That should already pick up overflow of hidden. So display of flex. So this is what actually will make the image to be pushed to the center. Display of flex, justify content to the center. Then align items also to the center, right? So the border, we can also set border on it. Border of 2 pixel, solid, and var primary. So we just have that border around it, so you can see what I'm saying now, right? So we have this guy. There's this blue border around it. So, and everything is actually also to the center. Okay, so the heading 4 parts, right? Let's also have that dot main, dot main underscore video call heading 4. So the heading 4 inside that, just set the color to var primary so that we can see it, right? I know it's already there, but we couldn't see it because okay, this is not still showing, so that means it's not properly targeted. Video call, okay. So I have video, okay, video dash call. Then there is this head and 4 inside. That's what I'm trying to target. So I think this is not meant to be underscore, but all right, so that should work. Okay, so you can see that the color came out now. So even though the color came out, something is not still styled properly. But there are things that we can fix actually, no issues. Okay, this one is underscore calls. And this one is dash call. So let me be sure that, okay, I've seen it. So this is supposed to be dash call, not underscore call. Why this is underscore calls? Okay, yeah, so these are the center now. All right, so we'll still come back to this. I will still move this up a bit. I don't want it here. So, and I think where that is coming from is along the vertical. Maybe I'm not supposed to move it again. Where is that main? For course, contents, along the column. Let's keep this to flex stats. Yeah. So if we keep this to flex start, okay, I think that behavior is happening because this is not done, right? So let's just leave it at the center. It will align by the time I'm done with the other side of things. All right. So what else are we supposed to do after that part? So let's move to the controls, right? And still under here, let's say dot main dot call underscore controls. So let me be sure that I'm not missing out on the name. Control. Yeah, call controls, right? So here we are going to have display of flex, right? And we are going to have gap, so that's the space around them, gap of 30 pixel. We are going to have align items to the center. That's along the vertical now, right? Background color of var primary, right? And then we have padding of 4 pixel, 5 pixel, top and bottom, left and right, right? Border radius of 5 pixels, so that we just have that curved edge, right? And if you check what we have here now, we should see that, so you can see what I'm saying, right? So, and the icons can also be styled. So controls, I'll just copy this and say I'm trying to target this descendant selector again, right? I'm trying to target icons that are inside controls that are inside main, right? I'm saying the cursor should be set to pointer, so that when you hover on it, it will look clickable. Then when you hover on it, right, for this particular one, I'm going to now come down and say, when you hover on this icon, on over, right, we are setting the color to, let's set color to Vardanger, right, on hover. So when you come here, when you hover on this, right, can you see that? So there is still the active part. This is supposed to be under something like circular. That's because that div, that call log, that call icon is placed. It's not yet styled. So let me just do that above here. Just say dot call underscore controls dash active. So that is the div that is holding that icon. So we want to set the width to, these are just custom stuffs, right? To 30 pixel. In terms of width, I want a square. Then the same thing, 30 pixel. All right. Then the border radius, I want 50%, right? So that it's going to be circular. Then overflow, any image overflow, I want to cut it off, set it to hidden. And what else? The background color should be set to, let's just use this RGBA of 2. So the red is 255, right? Red is 255. Let's say the green is 68, right? More like you're mixing colors, right? Using the primary colors. Then this one is 0. So let's say the alpha here represents the opacity or the transparency. Let's say that's 0.41. All right, so this is what you are getting. And this particular control is going to have display of flex, so that the icon, this is what I'm doing here, is I want the icon to be perfectly centered in the div. So we are just saying display of flex, justify contents to the center, right? Align items to the center. So you can see that this is perfectly done, right? And if I come back here, so you can see now that we have this. And when I hover on this, right, the icon color is actually, let me just keep it white when we hover, so that when we hover on this, we are changing to danger. But let's change to light instead, right? So when I come here and I hover on this, it's changed to lights. Okay, when it changes like that, we can't even see it. So at that point, I want to just change the background color to var. Let's just look for something that is, let's just use this and see. No. It's not that one that I want to change the background color. Okay, let's do it this way. Let's keep this to danger and this active. So I was setting the background color to, let me do this then. Yeah, so I think this is okay, right? So Now, away from that, let's go to something else, but this is shaping out now. So the only sections that are left is this sidebar and the footer. So which should not take us time to fix. So let's go to aside, right? For the aside and okay. For the aside, we are going to have background color of primary, right? And we are going to have border left of 1 pixel, solid, then var light, right? Then I'm going to have border, let's say border top left radius, right, to a 5 pixel. I'm also going to have border bottom left radius to be 5 pixel, right? And if I come back here, so I don't know whether you can see, this is having a little curve around here. Then the bottom two is going to be having a little curve around here, right? So away from that, let's also start the dot aside. Dot aside, the heading 4, inside aside, H4. So let's say the font family here, we want to use Sora, right? And fall back to sans serif. So we'll fall back to sans serif, right? Then the font size, you can just set it to 15 pixel. And the font weight should be 600 pixel. 600, no units. The color, let's set color to var light. Then let's have text aligned to the center. So that is how you align the text, right? And margin, let's have 1.5 rem, top and bottom, left and right of 0, right? So all we are trying to do is we are just trying to start this people joined, right? And let's move on to dot aside underscore user. So that's the div now. Display of flex for that. And align items to the center. Then we have padding of 10 pixel, right? Then we want gap for the items, gap between the items of 10 pixel. Again, you check what we have. So can you see now that we are beginning to have space around there? But I'll change that. Then this is supposed to be circular and it's supposed to be smaller than this, right? If you are comparing with what we have here. So, but we are getting there. All right. And so we just need to now target the icon. So let's say dot aside and underscore user dash icon. So the width is going to be set to 48 pixel. So the same thing, we are going to set the height to 48 pixel. The height to 48 pixel. Same flow. If you've seen what I'm doing now, you should know how to do it very well. Whenever you need to set something to circular shape, right, and give it border radius. So display This is to ensure that the image is centered. Display of flex, then justify contents. The content should be to the center, along the horizontal, align items along the vertical also to the center. Right, overflow again of hidden. Overflow of hidden, what else? And let's add border, because if you check here, it has border, right? Can you see this white border? So let's say border of 2 pixel solid, then var white, var light, right? So by the time you check what we have here now, this is what we're working on. Can you see now that this is looking like we expect it to be? Great. If you have come this far, you're already making sense. This is the same orientation. By the time you want to learn React, you already know how to make layouts, right? All you just need to learn, okay, know how to do JavaScript. But in terms of design, you're already good to go, right? So, and let's see, the next part is the footer, right? The footer section. Let's just display, let's set this to display of flex so that I can center the text. So something simple, display of flex, right? And again, when you see me use flex, I hope you understand why. It's because it allows me to align contents, items inside the parent, right? Which is all what you want. You want freedom to be able to align items the way you want. That's why I'm using it, right? Justify content center, align item center. And if you still don't understand Flexbox, check my Flexbox video, right? Because this thing, if you don't understand it, you will just be guessing and it can be frustrating. So, and background color has been set. Let's just set padding around it to 10 pixel, padding to every side, 10 pixel, right? And the paragraph that we have. So let's say dot footer paragraph. So the footer element is having a paragraph, if you remember. So let's set the font weight to 600, something thicker than normal. Then let's set the font family to Sora, right? And fall back to sans serif. All right, so by the time you come here, we are done. Can you see now? Very simple, and yet professional. All right. So the last part now is the phone, right? So when you click here, it should take us to that screen. When you click here, I mean. So let me just bring that in and show you how to do it. So inside there, where we have the sidebar. So when you click on this guy, it should take you to the next screen, right? So the way you do it is that you use the anchor elements to do it. Use the anchor element to do it. So inside there, what I'll just do is you can just hold this up, right, and say anchor element. So of course it's going to link somewhere. We'll just put this at the center, and this is going to be going to /phone.html, right? So, and the other side of things, when you want to go back, right? That is for, not sure if we've done that. Okay, let's just move with this first. So here now, I can come here and then click on this. So you can use it now, it brings me to this screen. This style is still big because we are using it as a layout. So, but this center, this is the next thing we want to start, right? To ensure that we have something like this. So you have done a lot today, not just Grid and Flexbox, right? A lot has been learned. And okay, let's just start this and call this let's end this. So for the main, let me just go back to the main section because that's where we have the dialer, the main section. So I'll just put it somewhere here, the star, the dialer star, dialer service star, right? here, just put our CSS here. So for that part, how do we want to approach it now? Okay, let's just do it gradually. So because we have a lot of stuff there. So if you look at what we have here, we have the dialer controls and we have the header side of things. So this is what I mean. So let's just get it first. Main dialer dot main dialer. Right here, we want to display flex. Want to display flex. Then we want flex direction to be column because we have to direct children, right? And this item should flow on the vertical axis. Then justify items. I just use stretch, right? And let's just be checking what we are doing. Nothing will happen here because we are yet to start styling the individual items, right? Then dot main underscore dialer dash header. So the head section, we want the width to be, I just want the width to be 480 pixel. 480 pixel, right? Minimum minimum height of 138. So I had to test this, right? 138 pixel. Then background color of that should be blue 70, right? And let's have padding within the head section of 0.75 rem minutes, right? And let's just see what we are dealing with. So can you see now? It's not yet perfect, but we are getting there. Then we want, I hope, yeah, mean height. So we want border top, right? Border top left radius set to 12 pixel. Then the same thing with border right radius. Border top right radius also set to 12 pixel. Then that container should be display flex so that we can control the items, flex direction of column. So don't forget that inside this header, I have the top and I have the input field, right? So that's why I'm doing this way. Justify content, space between. And don't forget when I say space between, the direction here is along the column. So it's just going to ensure that, can you see the input field here? Can you see this guy here? So this image is too big. That's why it's still this way. By the time I restrict this image, it's going to fall back to where it's supposed to be, right? Then let's do dot main underscore dialer, right? Dash header greater than div. So there is a div. This greater than is direct child. There's a div that's a direct child. We have only one that is a direct child of this. So again, if you check this place, so can you see this div? This div is the only header. We have two items there, the input field and this div. This div is the only header that's a direct child of this guy. So I don't want to, I could have copied this and just use it directly, but that's another way of doing the same thing, right? So here we just want to say display of flex. Display of flex. I want to say justify content space between. Justify content space between. Then we want align items to the center, right? And again, so can you see now that this was forced now to go here because of what we've just done. And these are spaced apart because I'm using space between. along my direction here for this element. My direction here is column. I use space between. That's why this is forced to the bottom and this stays at the top. There's a space between the two of them, right? So we now need to style this guy so that it looks bigger. It needs padding, right? The input field. So once we've added that, then let's have the dot main $header dot main $header dash top. So these are classes that I have there already. There's an heading, there is this H4 that is inside, right? I want the font size to be set to 20 pixel. Again, don't forget the code is in my repo and you can reference things. Font weight of 500, right? And that header icon, okay, let me just copy this so that we're fast and modify. So here, instead of this, we are going to have header icon. So this is where we restrict this thing. So let's say display of flex here, display of flex, and let's say we have align items to the center, right? Then we want gap of 1 rem. All right. So for this guy too, there is a div inside. I'm going to be saying greater than div, right? There's a div inside. And if you check what I'm saying, you see that we have this icon, right? This guy. Okay, I think I've removed that div. There's supposed to be a div inside that I was using. Okay, and let's just do it this way so that we see a line. Although I don't think it's necessary at this point, but let's just say this way. All right, so there's a div inside that we are targeting at this point. Here we are saying, I'm still going to stick with this, guys, but I want this width to be set to 42 pixel, right? Then the height to 42 pixel. Then we want the border radius set to 12 pixel. So display of flex, align item center, justify content, center, perfectly centered at the center of the div, right? And border background color of okay, this color is 808080, more like gray, right? Let me just put it here so that we'll maintain what we are doing. So let's say dash gray, let's say gray 80. So hash 80 80 80 80. Okay, so I come back to where we have that dollar. Okay, yeah. So here we can just say we are picking this, right? So if you check what we have, so can you see now, right? Things are shaping now. So having said that, let's have the input field styled. So dot main header inputs. So I'm using the element selector there. Border of 0. I don't want any border around it, right? Border of 0. Background color of transparent. Background color of transparent. Then color of light. That's a text color now of light. Then padding top. Padding to the top only, or 0.5 rem, 0.5 rem. Then we want outline to be none, right? So outline in the sense that when I over here, so can you see some outlines? I don't want that. Outlines to be none. Then box shadow of none. So we are just removing those default styles. By the time you come here, can you see? Enter your phone is there, and you can just you can type stuff here, right? Great. So the next part now is okay, this guy, you can hardly see the placeholder. So let's also influence that. So I'll just copy this and modify it. This is long and my voice is getting dry. So, but I still believe that I'm clear enough. Placeholder. So color of white. So I'm just saying the placeholder should be white, right? So that we can see it. So can you see now? Enter phone number. Then now we are getting to where we'll wrap up, right? The controls. So let's say dot main dollar controls. So instead of main dollar header, dot main ladder slash controls. So this is going to be display grid. I told you we are going to use grid again here. So this allows you to understand different scenarios with the use of grid. Grid template columns is going to be 3 columns, repeat 3, comma 1 FR, right? If you look at what I have here, it's 3 columns. You can say 3 column, right? That's what we are doing here. 3 column 1 FR. Then I'll just say uh, place items at the center. Place items at the center. Uh, place items at the center. Then gap of 1 rem, that space around them. The margin to the top. Margin to the top of 0.25 rem, right? And margin to the bottom of 0.25 rem. So we could have just used short centers, but I just move on. So border left of 1 pixel solid. Then we have our primary, right? Border to the left. Then we have border right and border bottom, the same values. So we don't want border top. This is what I'm saying. So can you see here? There's border here, there's border here, there's border here, but there's no border here, right? So I'm going to have 3 of them. Border to the left, to the right, and to the bottom. All right. So border radius, we want that little curved edge. Border radius of 1 rem, and padding in between the buttons of 1 rem, or around the control 1 rem. So everything is still about the control. Let's come back here so that we'll see. Okay, I think this is not applied, and if that is the case, I need to check the CSS dot main dialer controls. So let me see what I called it specifically again. Here we have main dialer, okay, dash controls. Okay, I just have main dialer dash controls. All right, so you can see that now. So these guys are going to spread out and things will shape out. So then let's do this also. Then that will be singular for each button control, right? Each button inside that div. So here we are setting um, let's set the width of each button to 70.45 pixel, right? The same thing with the height. Also set the height to 70.45 pixel, right? Border radius of 50% so that we have that circular stuff, right? And background color of primary, primary, right? Then we want display flex, just so that the items are perfectly centered, whatever is in there. Display flex, flex direction of column. Don't forget that I told you that the items in that each button are going to be arranged along the column. So you can see that things are shaping that now. But if I show you this, you can see that these two guys are sitting on one another. Things are arranged along the column inside this. This is display flex. Items in here are along the column. Everything to the center, right? Flex direction of column. Then we can now set the justify content. Everything should be to the center, right? Center. Then we also have align items. Align items, everything should also be to the center. Color of light, color of light, right? When you hover on it, you want the cursor to be pointer. So when you come back here, so you can see that we have something similar also here, right? Then the control, we have two other buttons, right? These two guys. So let's also target them and start them appropriately. So let me just pick this and use that as a target. So dash control, dash call. So we are setting the same thing, 50 pixel. So here we are using success. We're using success here, display flex, right, center. I think every other thing here is still pretty much the same, right? When you over on this, let me also do that. So we are going to remove this. When you over, or the icon, not over now, the icon in there, the color should be var light. And then the font size should be 24 pixel. So by the time you check back, so you can see now that we have this, right? So the other one is let me also try to start the back button. So we can also copy this and just target instead of call dash back, right? The only thing we are changing here is that we are saying this should be inherit the background. It should inherit the background. So that means whatever the parent is having, it should inherit it. Display of flex, every other thing here is also the same, right? By the time you come here, you can see that this guy inherited the background. So I think the only mix out is there's a reason why this is not stretched. So there must be, let me just try to trace it to the container. Again, how you can do this is you can also inspect, right? Click on this and you'll be able to see what is wrong. So there's a container here, right? There's a container here that's not well positioned, and I think it should be the inner container. So let me just try to look for it. But I think we are done already. So it's just to stretch that container. Main dollar, I said 450. So I think that's the header. Then so looking at what I have here, so something must be wrong because this is supposed to stretch, right? Let me just try to go back to this. Usually this is how you debug, right? Okay, I can see. You can see that I have the main section, this header, this main dialog, right? Everything is supposed to be inside. I have the head section, but then this other section is we supposed to be here is now outside. So I'm going to bring in everything that is inside the control, right? From here, right? I'm just going to copy it. So you should also adjust yours, right? In order to fix that. Dialog control. So I'll just copy this out and I'll make sure that it's actually placed in the right place. So we should be inside this div. Inside this div. Right. By the time I do that, yeah, so you can see what we have now. So we are done. That brings us to the end of this, and this is actually fun if you walk through this and you actually practiced along, right? You see that you have learned a lot of things. So we'll stop here, right? And there are many exciting sections to come. In the next section, we'll be doing some other interesting stuff, right? Keep on practicing. Don't forget, if you like the content, subscribe to this channel, click on the like buttons, right? It helps YouTube to actually also suggest this content to others. Then toggle on the notification, click on the notification bell so that once there's a new content, you'll be part of those to be notified. All right, thank you. See you in the next section.